Bible's clear. God has been seen, can be seen. In fact, I can give you a case where Daniel sees God the Father and Jesus Christ. In Daniel 7, 9 to 10.
As I looked, thrones were placed, and the Ancient of Days took his seat.
So remember Ancient of Days. And he's seeing him seated. That means he's seeing the Ancient of Days in a visible shape, in a visible body, seated on a visible throne. And he describes what his head is like. Keep reading.
His clothing was white as snow, and the hair of his head like pure wool.
Notice at first he says he saw thrones, plural, but the Ancient of Days is seated on one throne, singular.
Now notice how he takes a singular verse and shapes it to fit his doctrine. However, when you read the full passage, it becomes clear who the Ancient of Days is. Now verse 9 shows the Ancient of Days casting down the kingdoms of men and setting up thrones, establishing his kingdom on earth. That's what this passage is saying. Now the Bible teaches that Jesus does this at his second coming. When Jesus returns, he will cast down the thrones of men and set up his kingdom on earth for 1,000 years. Now look at verse 11. It says, I beheld then because of the voice of the great words which the horn spake. This is speaking of the Antichrist. It says, I beheld even till the beast was slain and his body destroyed and given to the burning flame. The beast represents the Antichrist and his king. The Ancient of Days casts down the thrones of men, establishes thrones, and destroys the Antichrist by casting him into the lake of fire. Now, to confirm the identity of the Ancient of Days, let's look at Revelation chapter 19, verses 19 through 21. It says, and I saw the beasts and the kings of the earth and their armies gathered together to make war against him that sat on the horse and against his army. This is speaking of Jesus and his saints at the battle of Armageddon. It says, and the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet that wrought miracles before him, with which he deceived them that had received the mark of the beast, and them that worship his image. Now look at this. These both were cast alive into a lake of fire, burning with brimstone. Now who cast them into the lake of fire? Jesus does. And the remnant were slain with the sword of him that sat upon the horse, which sword proceeded out of his mouth, and all the fowls were filled with their flesh. Now this passage makes it abundantly clear. Jesus cast down the kingdoms of this world. Jesus destroys the Antichrist and the false prophet, casting them into the lake of fire. And Jesus establishes his kingdom on earth for 1,000 years. Now from this is evidence that Jesus is the Ancient of Days.